Glu Mobile, known for a ton of premium mobile games, celebrity games that has Kim Kardashian, Gordon Ramsay, and other celebrities, along with 100 games on app stores. But nowadays, a lot of the games have gotten delisted and those social medias being gone. It makes you wonder, what led to the downfall when there used to be a big mobile game publisher being alongside with Rovio, Gameloft, and Supercell? Well, we're gonna go on a rollercoaster journey for Glu series to find that out. It started when Glu, formerly known as Soren, was founded by a lot of people living electronic arts, who then acquired Makerspace, where they glued together, forming what we know as Glu Mobile in June 2005, along with the G local mascot named G-Man. Wait, seriously, Glu? G-Man? Why man? Wouldn't this risk a copyright infringement for Valve's G-Man? It should have been G-Guy cause it's a little too G's to get. You know what, I'm calling it G-Guy instead, I don't care. It should have been G-Guy. Anyways, being one of the first mobile game company with few competitors, they have a strong position and potential to dominate the mobile gaming market.
Make it for the mobile consumer. We want to take advantage of the platform and the inherent simplicity of the mobile platform.
Companies like Glu Mobile want to put games on your cell phone, hoping you'll be sold by the combination of low cost and high convenience.
At the time, they used to only making small licensed port games for Java on mobile cell phones like Driver 3, Dino Hunter, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, Numa, Dash, Asteroids, and other famous IPs to be ported. While it was making sales, especially for Driver 3, sold over 1 million, they weren't content on relying on other famous IPs, as renewing or acquiring license can be quite costly, and it wasn't sustainable in the long run. So they started releasing original IPs exclusively for cell phones. They then made some ads for the games, won awards along the way, acquired companies like iPhone, MIG, and Supercell, increasing production, employees, and new game devs.
Generating big-time interest in Glu Mobile, going public any day, trying to become the electronic arts of the mobile gaming world.
Glu then became a public company on March 2007 for investors to invest, where Glu then made documents where they lay up a lot for around 100 plus pages just to appease investors and only care about sales. This is what shapes Glu's whole futures to come. And of course, when smartphones came into play, they set their sight on that to transition from cell phones. They also started releasing original IPs on smartphones like shown on screen, along with other licensed IPs that they had at the time being ported to go along. The development for new original IPs has been going well, especially for a small team making a game that will pivot Glu to a greater heights. Greenlit by Greg Ballard after being convinced by Chris Henloser, the main conceptor for Super KO Boxing 2 and the same game known as Gun Bros. Unfortunately, while this was happening, Glu has been slowly losing money due to accredited charges for the past few years, plummeting to the point that they were at risk of being potentially acquired. Desperate looking for something to save themselves, they replaced Greg Ballard to have Niccolo Damanzi from Hanson Mobile as their new CEO, in hopes of steering the company in the right direction. Which Niccolo does have a massive plan that will forever change Glu Games. Thus, everybody forgets that Gun Bros exists, and right as the company is about to steer in a new direction. So when the game was finally released into our app stores, the Gun Brothers starts blasting. Gun Bros is a top-down shooter game that uses two steer controls where you control either Percy or Francis gun to blast through waves of enemies known as the tyrannical oppressors of life, or TOO for short. There's so many things that made this game stand out: the graphics, gameplay, maps, different modes, weapons, and armor selection, the dual stick control that was revolutionary for a mobile game for its time, which pioneers other dual stick shooter games, Hot Babes, or just the sheer fun of blasting through hordes of tools. And especially the feat being one of the first few mobile games to have real-time live multiplayer worldwide with Gamespy and Gameserver that comes with voice chat. Let me see this again in case you couldn't tell how impressive this feat was at the time. Real lifetime multiplayer worldwide with voice chat from Gamespy and Gameserver in June 2011. This was back during iOS 4, Android 2.3 and 3.0 for a reminder what it used to be back then. The game eventually made a quite success for Glu, reaching $2.8 million and $610,000 in the first 2 months. So successful in fact that it single-handedly saved the company from bankruptcy set by Chris Henloser, with this prompted Niccolo to start appearing on live television claiming that his favorite game is Gun Bros.
And what a game are you best at, Niccolo?
I'm best at Gun Bros.
Even though he has never seen the project in development, nor has anyone in the studio acknowledged its existence ever since Greg Ballard left. This sends a message to Glu where they react like all any other game companies do when a successful game is a hit. Milk it. Glu then proceeded to release different game versions for Korea, Japan, and China and port the game on everywhere. And I mean everywhere they can, regardless whether the port is good or really bad whenever they outsource it. From porting on Android with Gamespy support for multiplayer, commissioned a Facebook Hi-Fi port from Hitphone Studio along with a flash player in the form of Gun Bros Lite to promote them, while Tencent to complete social media platforms port package, made a deal with Dana to port the game on mobile, an enhanced NVIDIA Deca board for DHD devices, a Spear Play where Glu's chief creative officer officers talks about the device in an interview. HP Touchpad for WebOS, a Windows Phone board that was so bad that it had hitboxes misaligned and animation errors that ended up being the worst port version. An Amazon App Store port and Google Chrome Store port that's practically identical to iOS version to be playable in browser. The point is, it's clear that Gunburst is a big deal of importance to Glu Mobile. In fact, they decided to clone the game 3 times in an attempt to capitalize on it. Man vs Machines, Eternity Warriors, and Starbirds. Gunburst but with Sting Bunting, Gunburst but with swords, Gunburst but in space. The same UI, the same gameplay, the same engine, with minimal changes, released in April, July, and August 2011, where they basically alienate their fanbase because of this. They even have their About section named Fantasy Bros, Steam Bros, and Space Bros. I'm not kidding around, the devs really named them heroes and higher-ups just casually accepted it. Which for context, these said clone games are made by the same devs who made Gumbos. Yeah, imagine being told to reskin the same engine from a game that you came up with as a joke during a lunch break. Also, let's add clone number counter in the top left corner for every time Glu makes a clone. I promise this would add up to a good amount of numbers. And I guess you could do push-ups or other exercises every time it happens if wanted to have fun with the numbers. Now, I'm sure you can guess by now from seeing earlier footages that Dingle spent for Glu Mobile to get big numbers in is freemium model and social games, and free to download games with in-app purchases features like gaining better weapons, energy or weighting system, and character customization, with social online friend interaction and constant updates to support said games in the long run. What kind of in-app purchases did that added for Gunburst, being one of the first few premium live service games that added $500 gun or 3,499 Warbucks named the Kraken, one of the most powerful gun for the game in July 2011. To put this into perspective, EA hasn't even become insanely greedy yet, or I suppose was about to become worst company in 2012 or 2013. But we EA, the most expensive things at the time that I could find was $10 to $20 over a DLC pack for Mass Effect 3 costing $60 in 2012, which understandably made a lot of gamers mad about it. What Glu did is adding $500 over a gun. It got on several articles about it for how ridiculous the price is.
Incredible.
That was done? No, because on the 3.60 version of Gunburst, they added Epitaph Square that costs $600 or 3,999 Warbucks, which made it on Guinness World Record Gamers Edition 2014 for the most expensive in-app purchases at the time. And people have bought both of these guns. Now granted, Glu did provide free updates for the games and isn't required to buy those guns as opposed to EA updating the game but needed to pay money to download said updates, but still. $500 and $600 comes this crazy price at the time where only whales could afford to put up money to buy these set guns. Gunburst is in the Orleans section. You see a lot of people complain about the price in other games too, where sometimes your games feels like pay to win. That should give you an idea of how greedy Glu is.
So, you know, free-to-play games, you understand how they work.
Sure, you download it for free, you play a little bit, and then it tells you give me money to get whatever.
With the success of Gunburst, this caused a chain reaction for other games to be released with set premium model features, where unfortunately the milking original IPs doesn't stop with Gunburst, as whenever a game is a hit, they'll immediately announce sequels or spin-offs for those set hit games like this was a Hollywood sequels movie. For example, Contra Killer immediately have a sequels and spin-offs as soon as possible. Contra Killer Zombies released 6.5 months after Contra Killer was released, barely giving the team enough time to finish the game, then somehow it was deemed a success to run a sequel, Contra Killer Zombies 2 in the next year. Frontline Commando, Frontline Commando D-Day, Frontline Commando 2, and Frontline Commando World War 2. Stardom The A-List make another game called Stardom Hollywood. You get the point, they'll do this until they exhaust their IPs. Heck, they'll even resort to copying other IPs, pulling the Gameloft and Zynga, like Blood and Glory 1 and 2, plagiarizing from Infinity Blade, Little Kingdom, Small Street, and Small City ripoff from Tiny Town, or Samurais vs Zombies unfortunately ripping off from Army of Darkness. Now, I don't mind copycats concerning Angry Birds is not exactly a new concept when Crush the Casual did it first before Angry Birds, will be really hard to draw a line between a ripoff and inspiration, but in my view, as long as it's done well and bring in different interpretation flavors, then I may give it a pass, like how Samurais vs Zombies did pretty well being a good game to play. What isn't a pass is how Glu decided to clone Samurais vs Zombies 2 with Defenders and Dragons. The same menu, the same engine, copied the whole gameplay, UI to UI, animation to animation, with the only difference being 3D and 2D gadgets being different. A literal copy and paste clone. Making your original IPs can be quite tiring, to the point they sometimes just make clones of their successful games. Oh, and what happens when a game is a flop? They immediately stop supporting the game entirely, meaning no updates nor support. Thus, the game gets abandoned or delisted after a while. Man vs Machines and Star Billings being a flop, got the support by delisting it in years after release. All games aren't safe either too, where Glider, despite having positive reception just get delisted due to being old and outdated, where they did them as legacy titles much to dismiss for those fans. Following both Rovio and Gamevil, they listed in game after years where they should have the resource to keep adding them into newer compatibility versions and for not making them as much money as they expected. Thus, they get treated like expendable trash and pretend they never existed. Yup, this is Glu's genius business model, everybody. Will they repeat this kind of process over and over? So, with all that being established, let's go through Glu Games library, shall we? Cut the Fuzz, Dragon Rising game, the Fruit Ninja but with farts. I'm on the Run, a jetpack joyride but with pig. Mutant Roadkill is copied from Zombie Highway, my dragon game, my host game. Ultimate Chef game of resource and recipe is taken from Restaurant Story. Westward Journey is Glu's attempt at making Kingdom Rush-like game. The Night World feels like a Metal Gear Solid game. Boomtown and Toy Affiliates are just Farmville-like games, which I'm assuming was Glu's attempt to replicate Bug Village success. Free City is a very similar game from Bug Village. Heroes' story is Heroes of Destiny but anime. They literally have the same map asset. How to Train Your Dragon Flight of Night Fury is a glide to clone. They also had clone Frontline Commando with rifle fire that Glu partnered with Destin to make it, which ended up being flop. They literally had named it Frontline Commando before changing it to rifle fire. Both Contra Killer 2 and Contra Killer 3, I meant Contra Killer Sniper switched into Frontline Commando gameplay format for some reason. Legacy of Angels is Contra Killer type game but 2D pixelated-ish images. Dragon Slayer have the same gameplay format as Blood and Grey, meaning another clone. And there are other games that are so obscure that they are merely flop upon release and gets delisted soon after. Some games don't even look like Glu made it, as it feels like Gamevil made them instead in terms of the style. Or games that I don't really have anything to say as they aren't that much important. Alright, that's most of Glu's quantity games out of the way. Something I want to mention is that there used to be old farmers times for Glu. There used to be a thriving community here for players to interact with each other, so we've been started off with Zombies Ate My Friends or Zam for short to see what it's like back then. Zam is a spin-off game from Stardom as they have a similar gameplay format and is made by the same studio, Glu Games, but with different story theme dealing with zombies instead of rising through fame. The first impressions was mostly good reception, some pointing out the obvious similarities to Stardom, some being very hooked about it, the unfortunate energy system being there to limit players, and sometimes glitches. The game actually used to have online live events episodes for players to compete for rankings where you can also team up with friends and win rewards like powerful weapons and armors. These events were named Outbreak, Fish Zombie, Halloween, Infestation, Holidays, Nightmare, and Suburbs of the Dead. Most players were happy as the game had issues that Glu neglected to do anything about them, from having lots of game bugs and lags to game crashing, players being falsely accused of cheating, hackers ruining players' experience for the events, Glu punishing players instead of set hackers, players who didn't rank high places but didn't receive their awards or end up not being ranked at all, and terrible communication from Glu's customer support that had no resolution for their fans. Plus, they keep rehashing the same kind of events or make events worse by implementing time limit or adjusting health regeneration. And unfortunately, all that complaint meant nothing as the game got abandoned after a single year, which there was no announcement at all, even in their own forum about it. With the last time Glu ever communicated with Zam fans was 1984 them when confronted with criticism, were they quote-unquote aware about said problems yet cowardly run away by abandoning them instead of resolving these issues. But the reason for a game being abandoned is most likely it wasn't profitable and Glu decided in more favor of keeping starter games because they were making more money than Zam, especially with Kim Kardashian in Hollywood that caused them to move the devs team there. But we'll get there when we get there as we still have others to go through. Indestructible, a video comeback game that was one of very few games to be made into Apple demo for being advanced this game was at the time, which they used to have a community and even their own separate forum site called Indestructible Camps. But again, unfortunately, Glu became more greedy as they introduced an energy field system and made everything cost a lot of money, leading to eventual multiplayer servers shutting down and game being abandoned by Glu when it was no longer profitable in their eyes. Eternity Wars did get a sequel that's thankfully much different than the first one, where it was no longer a Gunboat clone and did pretty well just to be a good MMORPG game, which then brought it to have a third game being rushed out, which resulted in having mountains of complaints about hackers, bad online gameplay experience, Glu wrongly suspending a lot of players' account with no response or very late response having no resolution again, yet that's hackers moving well while legitimate players suffers because they couldn't figure out a way to stop hackers. Glu, do you guys notice how the board is at least 45 to 50% on topics based on your customer service, for hacker maintenance, bad multi device support, years of return tickets, and myriad of other problems? And hint, as a developer, I will hate to look out on my board every day to see everyone especially displeased with everything. Do you guys even realize? Or maybe Glu is so careless by now that it doesn't even face them low. So what was Glu's solution to deal with hackers? They basically removed real-time multiplayer as an update just to lazily compact hackers. Fast forward to the 4.1 version, the last. It was released. It totally broke the clan system and suddenly Glu dropped off the face of the earth. Fun stuff like PvP disappeared. No communication, nothing, and no face to the game ever, it turns out. Then, many months later, version 4 comes out. Congratulations, Eternity Warriors 3, all you players with level 42 characters, sayonara! Enjoy your broken game, we move on, says Glu. Well, figuratively, because they didn't even give us any official announcement. Then the 4th game came along that's just a copy paste of 3rd game with less content, including no own beta player just releasing compact hackers again, which resulted in massive flop to eventual franchise abandoned by Glu. Oh, and they also made a clone too called Blood and Glory Immortals and Immortals of Ringy or Blackened Inferno in the midst of this just to rob salt on the injury that both ended up being flop anyway. And of course, Gunboats being ahead, we have the sequel in Mirror Russia with a team quadruple the size of the original in Russian development to the point they can't have the intended features like damage game mode to lazy comparators again, and released in the same month while the original was still being supported, only for it to be flopped with $2 million on all platforms because they added loot boxes for random chance of getting armors, mods, and health or speed permanent increased stats that fundamentally ruined progression from the first game. Thus, Gunboats 2 updates got cut half a year after release and abandoned, where this basically killed the franchise. The Gunboats franchise, the award-winning game that single-handedly saved Glu from bankruptcy, has died by their very own hands. All those parts, different game versions, the life typically came from Niccolo, the devs putting passion and effort onto them, have gone wasted. And just to add another salt on injury, they outsourced Gunboats spin-off from Chris called Bombshell's Hell's Belly. That's made by a admittedly quite talented team, but it's freaking disrespectful on Hierarch's part for outsourcing a franchise and dev that saved your company, but whatever. A shame, because the Gunboats team had a Gunboats universe being planned out that's been mangled, never to be seen again. As for the rest, I'm going to automatically assume that they either got abandoned out of laziness to update compatibility or no longer summed up as powerful to focus on more successful games, considering Glu's delightful non-existing explanation. Glu being scummy to their customer is a common theme throughout most of the games, that they're even neglected to fix game glitches that cause players to lose all of their game progress and in-app purchases not working as intended, where Glu gets the money but players didn't receive the items that they purchased.
Users were having an odd problem reaching level 12 and then the game would corrupt or uninstall itself, thus stopping all ability to continue the game. So the user would have to download again, and surprisingly they would lose all the cash that they had purchased. So users would contact Glu and Glu would never get back to them, or Glu would tell them that the purchases for the items were non-refundable and the user was basically screwed. Again, this user that put in this complaint had the same problem as I did. They installed the game and it corrupted and then failed to deliver paid content. Again, the user contacted Glu Mobile only to be turned down.
And a forum moderator has this to say: what you see on the forum is sometimes way too blown out of proportion and the situation is not as bad as it seems. Our goal is always to provide quality service, which was the case here, and in every situation we handle. In every situation we handle, huh? Okay. So how come I'm seeing a person that spends $1,000 and lost their purchase games with 3 reasonable responses that had no resolution, huh? How come I'm seeing 100 plus instances of people losing their progress and didn't receive their purchase items with agonizing long support response time that most never got resolved? Or how Glu admitted that they have no way bringing the game progress back, or the supposed quality service for Eternity Wars 3 and some online events. And bro had an audacity to say why so serious when customers' money is on the damn line. Like most of everyone, I encounter frequent unhappy situations with Glu games. Reset, sudden death, hang, crash, and the classical pay for what you will not get dilemma. If you make as much money as you made off me by just 10% of your players, you should have plenty of money to hire more customer service to assist your needs and the needs of your players who helps keep your own lights on. It is a shame of how bad the communication is, and it isn't right, especially when they create games to get our money in every facet of game design. Good companies care about all their customers, paying players or not. They want to build a huge fanbase and reap the rewards that come from sheer numbers and popularity. Mediocre companies care mainly only about their paying customers and will cater to them. Glu won't even care about their loyal high-spending customers. Go figure that one out. It seems that the quality service in every situation we handle is, in your words, out of proportion for downplaying of how bad it really was. Whether it's intentionally malicious or incompetent, this is still negligence, where they earn an F score on Better Business Bureau for abysmal customer care. So congrats Glu for earning an F score on Better Business Bureau. You really earned it for treating your loyal fans shit when you had them. Continuing on, there's also a real catch gambling features that greedy you thought it would be a good idea to make slot machine games and use IPs like Samurai vs Zombies, Contra Killer, and Dino Hunter, or use in-game mechanics like Dino Hunter Reloaded tournaments to have set real cash gambling features. We are pleased to expand our mobile portfolio to include real money gambling. We anticipated that real money gambling will continue to gain momentum globally and believe with this offering, Glu is well positioned to capitalize. No. Thank goodness this didn't went anywhere and was flopped afterwards, because imagine other Glu games having to suffer with a real cash gambling feature, and they were already scummy from implementing energy system and pay to win stuff. This is crossing the line that I didn't know was there for game feature implementation. Did I mention the fact that there are free IP programs too? Speaking of Dino Hunter, they acquired the franchise on 2012 from Atari. I presume they acquired it for permanent license because it made a lot of money back when they were licensing. With how they keep rehatching Dino Hunter every year being slapped onto it, I'm assuming the quality have gotten decreased over time. Also Glu, you do realize that you're defining up both your fanbase and game devs from doing this, right? Why not keep adding Dino Hunter 2014 by having new major contests every year or so, instead of having different new versions licenses that are practically the same games. I thought that was one of the major reasons for having Famous Model in the first place. In fact, that's supposed to be one of your ideas for long-term value and long-lasting relationship with your loyal fans. So the spin-off game Dino Hunter is by far the most popular game on YouTube, where we got commentary features from the gaming favorite with 4 million subs and views. It was the third most profitable game at the time. So how long did Glu support the game? 6 months. No, I'm not joking. The game didn't even reach a year, where Glu for some reason decided to do a better game that made millions with no plans for major region update, despite them saying the game would be updated earlier, and then left the game to be updated with minor content updates or rehashing stuff for new regions until 2019. Something must have happened behind the scenes where I'm left to assume that they moved the devs teams elsewhere. And if that's the case, why Glu? Why did you decide to not milk Dino Hunter when that's easily the most safe and logical thing to do from financial and game development perspective? But instead, they simply chose to either move the team to another game or lay off the team, which both are equally stupid reasons of how Dino Hunter got irrationally banned in 6 months due to the disappointment for Dino Hunter fans. So good job Glu for this mismanagement mess. Glu then acquired Kryptonite in 2011, which they did help making samurais with zombies and gears and guts, so that's nice. As for the rest, that don't has the same gameplay style from Blood and Gory, meaning yet another clone game. Both Dragon's Duel and Age of Fate got flopped upon release. Both Monster Shooter and Monster Hunter games are spin-offs from big time games that had little success, which all leads to Glu laying off Kryptonite employees 2 years later. But then, Glu decided to call Monster Shootout with tons of guts and replace Monster Against Gangsta with Gang Lord. Seems a bit distasteful to do that after laying off Kryptonite employees and at the same level of minimal success anyways. 80 live service games. You mean those games that Glu eventually abandoned? Yeah, what a totally game changer it was for so-called leader of freemium games to abandon their freemium games. Seems like on the surface Glu maintained good relations with Blamo after acquiring them from seeing how successful they had with Smart Feeders and Zombie Cafe, but we'll just move on. On July 30, 2014, they acquired Sideways to get both Countdown and Racing Rivals. Starting with Countdown, it used to be a Facebook card game that unfortunately shut down in August 29, 2014. It was actually already dying before Glu came along due to around 50 other IPs or card-based being licensed at the same time, making it very costly for Countdown to be maintained, and it didn't help that Countdown was losing popularity too. So by the time Glu acquired it, they were forced to announce shutdown in July 29 for unable to afford both server and renewing license costs. Whether or not Glu could have done something better or worse for Countdown is up for speculation, but I'm leaning towards the probable latter, as Glu attempted to revive Countdown with Countdown Racing in 2017, which is a ripoff from Assault 8. And funny thing is that Glu used to have a similar game in their library called Rogue Racing before Countdown Racing. Glu really brought back Countdown from the dead just to give the copying other IPs Gameloft treatment, and then buried afterwards when the game was in mirror form and lay off 46 employees, just to spin on Countdown fans and leaving it out a final bad note, instead of at least try to have an actual Countdown-like game. Also, since Glu attempted to revive Countdown, I have a new question. What about your own games, Glu? Glider, Gumbos, Interrated Warriors, Dino Hunter, Zem, to name a few. There are fan base who want those franchises to be back, but instead you wasted your time and employees on making an Assault 8 ripoff. Okay, Glu. On to Racing Rivals, where another funny thing is that Glu used to have a similar game called Racing Empires as a ripoff from Kabam's Fast and Furious game. But back to Racing Rivals. So how did Glu treat Racing Rivals? Well, let's hear it from Racing Rivals veteran fan.
In 2015, the management at Glu, who bought CA Games the year prior, promised bonuses to Racing Rivals developers if they surpassed the income projections for 2015. The developers sat down, talked, and decided to work their ass off for the entire year to surpass those projections, and they did. In 2015, Racing Rivals made $12 million more than the projections, well, projected. The team was excited to get the bonuses they were promised, but instead, all they got for working their ass off for the whole year was a cake.
So that beautiful image on the left is our app icon at the time. That piece of shit cake is what we basically have determined to be worth $12 million. So a couple of developers left within 2 weeks after that cake, and I took that cake and basically went to my desk and opened up LinkedIn to start looking for a new job.
Did Glu kill off Racing Rivals? Well, partially, but after the damn KK and making original developers leaving to be replaced with people who aren't as passionate as OG does, it did certainly make a significant role for their game's downfall on how the two worst updates happened, leading into eventual shutdown, and this time with announcements finally. Don't know why Glu didn't have the courtesy to do that with the rest of the games. Fun little fan, there was a game in 2015 called Countdown Rivals that was scrapped probably because the Racing Rivals team told Glu how dumb idea it was to clone Racing Rivals with Countdown name on it and refused the idea, which I guess Glu decided to copy Assault 8 instead in 2017 when that didn't happen. Next, in September 2014, they acquired Playfirst for Dino Dash, likely the same reasons as Dino Hunter to be used as permanent license. And damn, I used to play these games back when I was a kid, having fun playing as Flo and managing through dinos in my old PC. Good times. I think Flo is even one of the first skills that I used to have a crush on now that I thought about it. Well, alright, let's see what Glu did for their latest game.
Oh my goodness!
What have you guys done to Flo? This is not the same girl that I used to have a crush on. You cannot tell me this is the same character. Like before this, they kept Flo's design consistent until they completely changed her. They had all this constant redesign drafts, yet they chose this. And it looks like this game is the least received game out of the Dino Dash series, which I agree. And what's this? They also copied Cookie Fever's and Gordon's game format. Around and how Flo started her story by leaving corporate company only to be end up in the hands of corporate greedy mobile game company. Glu then acquired Crystal in November 2016. Crystal used to have both Facebook and mobile games, but for whatever reason, they got unbeaten, where I left to assume that either Servercross or Crystal willingly abandoned those games to focus on profit fashion and design mode as their main priority for profit, despite fans pointing those games back. Which Glu ended up getting both games when they purchased Crystal, and with how both games are still around, it's safe to assume that they made decent profits for Glu. Glu then acquired QuizUp in September 2016, where previously QuizUp was about to be aired on NBC for game show using QuizUp game when it used to be one of the most popular review mobile game at the time, but NBC then suddenly decided to cancel the show, leading into layoffs and claimed Vanilla sold the game to Glu as a last resort, which in a way, Glu did save QuizUp from being deleted for a while, but the game was slowly going downhill and leading into 2021 shutdown. They gave a nothing burger explanation, so most likely it was either server cost or not profitable, with QuizUp fans wanting the game being gone, though it was a bit awkward when Glu was late to shut the game down. But all those acquisitions pales in comparison to the dumbest acquisition that Glu has ever made. On August 2nd, 2012, Glu, after losing $3 million in June, decided to buy Gamespy technology from LGN for $2.8 million. For context, Gamespy is an online peer-to-peer network service that hosts servers for thousands of games. It used to be a pretty big deal for PC, console, handheld, and mobile games for providing online multiplayer connectivity back then. From games like shown on screen for a sample of how much they used to be trusted. Our acquisition of Gamespy brings Glu's industry-recognized leadership in online cross-platform technology infrastructure. Gamespy battle-tested team will enable Glu's product roadmap to include robust and high scalable multiplayer and social functionality. We expect that acquisition of Gamespy will be earning neutrals in the near term. However, the Gamespy team and technology is expected to help us drive higher monetization and lifetime value in the Glu's title from 2013 on. There will be no disruptions in service to Gamespy's current customer and contracts as a result of this acquisition by Glu. No disruptions, huh? On October 5th, 2012, they announced that Gamespy will shut down in December 2012, which Glu proceeded to shut down Gamespy, making thousands of online multiplayer games using Gamespy no longer function. Okay, let's go over why this is stupid, since they put out a response on why they started out after causing an outrage for gamers. Really, Glu? It's inaccurate and publishers didn't pay? Then why does Rebellion say they've been paying it for 7 years? And why did you shut down way earlier than it's supposed to? You just ruined your credibility for the October buzz as you lied about the expected shutdown. I know that's you, Glu, hiding behind Gamespy or creasing them to say this as you're the boss in charge. Also, 4 years? If this is true, why wait 48 months instead of cutting off the said publisher not paying like they should have? They're saying these publishers didn't pay, which I find it highly likely that these publishers with millions of dollars somehow didn't pay the monthly service. Also, this includes you too, Glu. Are you implying that you didn't pay Gamespy back when you used it for Gamblers? You did pay for Gamespy service, right? Anyway, they were never stated that I have to renew it on the service after they signed up for free back in 2011, as it was a one-time thing, as in free was simply free, not some BS free model or free trial kind of thing. Actually, how much did Gamespy service used to cost before Glu took over? $20,000 to $202,000 per month. Oh, that's actually pretty reasonable. Let's see how much they cost after Glu took over. What the fuck? No one in their right minds would pay for $15,000 to $44,000. Like, are you fucking nuts, Glu? Glu must be sniffing a lot of Glus, because they were dead-ass expecting game devs like Rebellion that was previously paying either $20 or $200 per month to instead pay up $32,000. And they had a goal to say game publishers are the delinquents and blaming them. Yeah? And the server costs do not suddenly jump 1,000 times. Like, no shit, they choose not to pay. And how a lot of multiplayer games got shut down. Says the one who blocked people on Facebook from commenting and criticisms about Gamespy Shutdown. And I don't want to hear lack of discrimination or announcement complaint from you out of all companies. Why the hell didn't Glu just ask IGN or Gamespy employees of risk factors for hosting online network before Glu decided to block Gamespy and shut down anyway? Oh wait, they did consider risk factors, yet they somehow did not consider the server costs, but worry about retaining employees. Why does it matter about employees? Glu, do you understand what you're holding in your hand? Gamespy is a simple company compared to acquire Supercell will get Gendex employees like Christian Loser and Koreaners to create Gambros. What you should be worried is the server costs, but no, it generally never crossed their minds about the server costs. How? How did these yellow blob donut buffoons didn't consider the basic first thing that you should think of for acquiring online network risk, yet they somehow expect a higher monetization and Gamespy team to help them shamelessly monetize while they're already in negatives from losing millions? No, there's no way. Scummy is still alive. Then, Glu doubles down to fully shutting down Gamespy in May 2014 and sees many major labels multiplayer games to function. Their reason for shutdown? Glu Mobile explains that it was not just a matter of hosting a single server. The truth is, the Gamespy business was no longer viable. No! You caused this. You caused this scandal atrocity from making Gamespy to be no longer viable when you decided to make it 50,000 to 44,000. You killed them. You know, for a company that had 500 plus pages yapping about results to investors, you should to have a grossly miscalculated how buying Gamespy would turn out. I find it hilarious the high-ups all collectively sat down and thought handling 1,000 plus online responsibilities from buying Gamespy was a good idea. Like, if they simply wanted a higher monetization and lifetime value for their titles, here's an idea for Glu. Maybe don't buy an online network when you just lost $3 million and instead leave it alone to not deal with rapid server costs so you could safely use their service for your games, as you're probably one of few companies that had the elusive unobtainable for your heavily demanded multiplayer with 100,000 plus active players. But no! Let's find an online network and massacre 1,000 games instead! Strategic fucking geniuses! It amounted to 1,000 games with multiplayer function shutdown, including the entire Nintendo Wii Online, upset a lot of gamers attached to said games, wasted valuable servers that Gamespy was hosting, the use of peer-to-peer online game network and cross-prices got significantly lowered, forces publishers and gamers to mod out Gamespy to replace with another or their own service like OpenSpy to fix up the mess that Glu made, and destroy a beloved company with 15 plus years of history since late 90s for a pathetic monetization gain. I think I can speak for all gamers for once to say a message to Glu. Go fuck yourself. Now, I ranted about it because I was surprised to find out that Glu somehow managed to get away with this. There's concerning a lot of people back then and even now who didn't know or at least didn't talk much that Glu was solely responsible for shutting down Gamespy, where some blame Gamespy and publisher instead of Glu. Which one makes sense to get the hang of? The company that had been here for decades had experience with managing big servers and maintain good beloved resolution customers for years, or the company that show up out of nowhere had no prior experience managing big servers and has almost zero relation to Gamespy's customers. And the game companies who use Gamespy just move on and didn't do anything to Glu. Who knows, maybe all my rent would have been not as another company like EA could have bought Gamespy instead of Glu. But I feel like if EA did exactly what Glu did, there would have been a whole different reactions and Gamespy shutdown would have been talking more judging how PVZ downfalls got milked, going on about EA bad, pub get good narrative. Like I feel there's some kind of bias of how people react to unpopular companies and brush off said companies aside just because they aren't well known. But still, it's a shame. As Gamespy went out with a last message that they can't even say why they're closing down except just say it's a business thing. Worse, they had a bright, optimistic future ahead of them. They were just proud to win Game Developer Award, feeling validated for their decade-plus history efforts, just for Glu to show up and invalidate their entire existence. So after that whole train wreck mess, what did Glu do next? They decided to use up all their money made from female games on making celebrity and movie games, meaning going back to their roots rely on other famous IPs. They released Robocop, Mission Impossible, Rogue Nation, and Terminator Genesis that are just clones of Frontline Commando, Sniper S with Jason Statham being a clone of Chrono Trigger, Hercules the official game is yet another clone of Blood and Glory, James Bond's Wolves of Spinach, straight up a garbage game, and Gordon Ramsay Restaurant Dash. Despite the game reusing assets from Cooking Dash, it actually made success generating $23 million instead of being flopped like early games that I mentioned. Most likely because there's actual passion and care for the game to be fun. And of course the big star A-list celebrity Kim Kardashian Hollywood. It was a big success, more successful than Gumbros. How much success? It made $700,000 per day, the most successful Glu game. Initially when I first heard of this game, I legit thought that it was just another celebrity name slapped onto a mobile game in an attempt to make quick cash out of it, but that's not exactly the case after I watched 2 hour and 22 minutes video by Medals on it. The video covers every essential context for why the game works well, Kim's lifestyle, misconceptions, a bit over dramatic controversies, the appeal of early games, game preservation, and other stuff, but I'm only gonna be focusing on game itself where I'll refer to it as KKH. KKH is a clone game from StarCraft and is even referred as such in the About section. But despite that, KKH evolved the standard gameplay format to be best one in terms of stories, visual, and gameplay as a general consensus from fans and critics who played them, due to both Dev Steve and Kim actually having passion and care into the game, with Kim showing her record-setting session photo, being consistently posting about the game for 10 years, and even made a meta depth to the game. There's even a villain rival character that you face up throughout the story depending if you are a boy or a girl, named Willow Pape or Dirk Diamonds, but the former is more memorable because of general female target audience. Thus, Willow Pape has her own articles for character speculation and why she's a good rival video game character. It's still down to credibility, this game has the same art director as them, which a lot of people were praising for its characters and story, which means KKH likely has same level of quality care. Both Dash and Kim knows what they're doing and show with them contacting each other, along with Kim have been in the studio on multiple occasions, and I can't deny that. There's a reason why this game lasted so long and has its own Reddit fanbase still active despite of the game's flaws. That being the energy system and manipulative addictive nature on enticing players to pay in-app purchases, but that's to be expected for a Glu game and more of an issue to Glu Mobile as a whole. Now, let's not ignore the fact that Nicolo completely thought of slapping starting game with Kim's name just to make quick bucks, seeing how he said about taking advantage of Kim's followers and social media. Do you honestly think that Nicolo would truly know why both KKH and Restaurant Dash are success? No, of course not. Because as you know by now, KKH being ahead, Glu would then copy the same gameplay format for other celebrities. Then, when those games eventually flop, Glu throws in tantrum by blaming it on their employees and laying off them. Wow! It's almost as if they're putting out these shovelware-like quality games with celebrities and famous IPs slapped onto them to make short-term bucks, then they get surprised when their expenses are way bigger than their small profits. Something that they somehow couldn't figure out why they are falling. But Nicolo, you out of all people should know this. When you switch Glu from paid and licensed IPs to a freemium model, as you should said that original IPs was making the company paying less in royalties to do not having to pay or renew licenses. I thought this is a lesson that you learned. Friendly reminder that they give a cake to Racing Rivals team because of this for unable to afford bonuses, by the way. Speaking of license, due to this, KKH would unfortunately have to be eventually shut down. And after 10 years, it was gone into sunset notice and shut down in 2024 to the many distraughts of KKH fans and ones who paid a ton into this game. But this isn't a simple delisting game. No. What made a lot of KKH fans upset is that the game will be no longer be playable even after it's gone. As in, you can't get past the loading screen to play the game offline. Now this is just disrespectful. You're telling me for 10 years that they can't find a way to make the game being offline playable, the same company making millions? Or is it that devs weren't allowed to make the game be offline playable by higher-ups because of BS license policy for not only games Ubisoft ass type or something? Like, at least make the game be offline playable if you're going to shut down an online service mobile game. Like, that's just spitting into the face who spent a lot of time and money into this game. And you should know this would happen from seeing Facebook game shutdowns like Cartoon and Cluster old games. And especially from Gamespy's online games that you've massacred. For crying out loud, Zeb is able to be played offline even after it's gone, seeing how Neko is able to play it. Why can't you all do the same with KKH? It doesn't matter how much this game has over the years, because it feels pointless in the end because the game is unplayable now. The fans can't see their characters they grew to like, no fancy clothes, unable to restory, nothing. It's ironic that Glu abandoned Zeb in favor for Stardom and KKH, yet when those two eventually got removed, Zeb intended guarantee and other belief to the fact that it's able to be played offline even after it was removed like a zombie. I can only imagine the reactions for KKH fans realizing the game could have been offline playable this entire time as they been begging Glu for offline game preservation since 2014. But in the end, Glu never truly cared about KKH. They only let both Kim and Dev's team do their thing because the game was simply making fortune. That's all there is to them. How ironic it is that Nicolo says he's trying to build communities, yet he destroyed thousands that he built. I'll shut down 1,000 games before I let this company die. After the success of KKH, they also made Kim Kardashian slots and real celebrity slots because of course they did. Then they acquired license for Major League Test Sports, WWE Universe, Disney Sorcerer Arena. So Test Sports, baseballs, and football. Clone games. They are all the same fucking game. Another fun little fact is that Glu acquired 6 studios that made Your Turn Football to rebrand it into Test Sports Football, meaning it's actually a clone game. WWE Universe. This game straight up sucks. Disney Sorcerer Arena. Initially I thought this was a ripoff from Raid Shadow Legends, but another funny thing is that Glu already has a similar game that predates Raid Shadow Legends called the Amazing Battle Creatures. But I only think that it's probably Glu forgot that Amazing Battle Creatures exists and Glu rip off Raid Shadow Legends but with Disney characters, unknowingly that they have done this before, and I thought that would be funny of course. And that's funny all the Glu games. Here's the number counter results. I may have either missed the copy games that I wasn't aware of or perhaps was reaching for some games, but I hope you all had a good exercise from this. And now I'm actually gonna do exercises. In the mix of all this, Glu sued Hothead's games and rewards Oi for copying their games. Ignoring the elephant in the room for a moment, let's see if Hothead and rewards copying Glu games is true. So Killshot and Dino Hunter 2014. I'll admit, after seeing it side by side, yeah, it is a copycat with only difference being hunting down people instead of deer, and Glu won the case over it. As for Design Home and Rig Decor, I guess I couldn't find any info whether Glu won the case or not. So Glu, do you have anything to say for the games that you've copied? Like Nibblebit did not let Zynga slide for copying Tiny Tower, so you should be glad that Nibblebit didn't notice your copied games. And especially Share Entertainment or Epic Games for Infinity Blade games that you copied it 5 times. What a hypocrites. Can you imagine how Glu's employees felt about having to put up with Glu's bullshit? Well, no need to imagine because I have the employees' reviews right here. So let's hear what Glu's employees have to say after working there. The creative teams I work with at at Glu were some of the most talented in the industry. I was constantly amazed at the quality of work they put out. Sadly, the upper management preferred to simply copy other games rather than take any risk. On top of that, the budget was constantly struggled, making it harder to bring in talent to create the very games the company relied on. I saw several employees quit after simply burning out. And these were people who love making games. At the cost of one executive producers, the company could have hired 2 designers, artists, people you know, make games. Start acting like a game company and just like EA Light. Otherwise, you will continue to bleed talents until you are brought out. Management doesn't actually care about customers or products so long as the waste keeps spending. They don't support the hires working frontlines like QA or customer care. Product quality, the games players and games players are not a priority. Glu product owners and managers not only ship unpolished and broken games with obvious bugs and lackluster quality. Most artists, designers, and engineers will hate and resent the fact that making a good game or software is not important because it is detrimental to one's profession. There's always one throat to choke. Many Kryptonite employees were mortified by this statement. Choke yourself. Stick to shooting in there if you want to keep your nose above water. If you heard the horror stories about working at Zynga 3 to 4 years ago, or worse, live through that, you'll have an idea of what's like working here. Crazy CEO, fear-driven management, top-heavy management layer that's micromanaging. So there was a database of every Glu's employees' personal data got leaked due to a phishing scam that they fell for from scammer impersonating Nicolo in 2016. Personal data includes 2015 wage census, full names, addresses, social security numbers, earnings, and even info leaks reaching to some family members. The hires need to notify their employees about this data breach for 2 weeks. They don't care at all about their employees. I've been in the industry for almost 20 years and most companies are good at pretending to failure to employees. Here, they don't bother. Communications to employees is atrocious despite failing to be more transparent. Unable to identify exactly why Dino Hunter 2015 was a runaway success, they played safe and created the same game in Dino Hunter 2016 with barely fresh coat of paint. It failed miserably. With this failure, the studio has now been reduced to a single game studio, down from its previous production size and positive atmosphere. Layout policies are insane. Entire studio got sacked because 1 or 2 people made terrible game design decisions. Fire the people who screw up instead of burning the whole darn village. Let project release before they're deemed failures. Layoffs, layoffs, layoffs. Don't worry, when you're laid off, leadership will say, we didn't get lunch bonus this year. Their words, not mine. Listen to your workers when they're saying there's problems instead of taking your head into the sand. Great people who are treated pretty unfairly. Low pay. Management constantly change their minds and demands unreasonable last minute change. Understaffed and overworked. This team eats catered for 3 days a week while the rest of the community eats seaweed, chips, trailers, and Doritos. What's hilarious is that they literally offer their scraps to everyone else when they're done with it. That's the kind of inequality you deal with at Glu. It's outrageous. Eventually, either the whole team quits or the whole team gets laid off and they're just sent to India for underperforming. Oh, did I mention India? Yeah, no reason to bother even working here anymore as they are working each and every day to find a way to outsource literally every job they can to India. It appears that they are even forcing employees to train their replacements in India before firing said employees. Sickening. Mismanagement at its finest. From bad decisions made for what games to make to bad project management to not giving enough resources to the teams that are actually making money. In the end, the workers are the ones fired while management keeps their jobs and extremely high salaries. Also, here's positive reviews for comparison. Yup, a 9-day credibility. The most common complaints from 15 negative reviews that I roughly counted are mismanagement from higher ups, layoffs, stop cloning, copying, milking, and innovate instead, underpaid, inequality, not caring about the employees, and overwork. Nicolo does not care about your product unless you are making a celebrity game. He does not want innovation, he does not want integrity, he does not want you to succeed. The sad thing is, no matter what I'm putting in this box, you won't eat it. We did this at the company, giving honest advice and complaints, and it did nothing. You don't listen. And I don't think you care about anyone working at the company. You care that the company looks good on the surface, on paper, to investors. But the thing is, you left the company right off from the core. It is not sustainable the way you're running things. And I think you know that. I would not at all be surprised if Glu is sold to a larger company within few years. And unfortunately, that's exactly what happened. Glu got acquired by EA in April 2021 for $2 billion. It's ridiculously high, probably because of celebrities, movies, sports IPs being put into use for mobile games. And you know what the funny part is? Remember how Glu started by leaving EA? Yep, it all comes into full circle. Now, how do you think EA treats Glu Games? Since EA is the same level, if not worse company than Glu, and Glu is just bootleg EA. So, of course, EA just casually abandoned the remaining Glu games by delete system and lay off Glu's employees, leaving only 9 games on App Stores and 2 games on Play Stores as of today, essentially wasting their $2 billion while making Glu verge of being dissolved at any day in near future. A genius 4D chess power play move from EA. So where are Glu's creators now? Most creators move on to other things. For example, Chris Hanloser went on to Spiro as a creative director, making cool Star Wars figure and toys. Florianus went on to co-found BB Cannon, where they made pixel art and retro games, where you can find them on YouTube or their own site. Eric Ross, Glu's main composers and sound designer for nearly every games, works at the Dub West Audio Production. Laura suggests is currently working as sessional instructor in university and has artworks in her website. Austin Warren works at the Game Associations as game mentor and has valuable insight videos in his YouTube channel. And other creators that I'll link to the rest of their site that I try to find in the description if you want to check out their works and maybe learn a thing or two. What's the future for Glu? Glu Games, there are games that have been separately resourced as to community errors that's also linked in the description. Indestructible has their multiplayer partially been restored and is now playable in Android and Android version. Famous Zombies has been decommed and recommed to be playable in Android and Android versions, and even has a PC port thanks to its warrant. He also has Project Glu for Famous Zombies 2 got roasted in Zynga in his own version of Indestructible in development for restoration. Gamespy is playable in some devices through APK API, and multiplayer is almost resourced to a base fix parallelizing login but failed to capacitate to the scannership when connected. We need somewhere to figure out why the scannership is happening by inspecting packets that the game start to open spy. And what's needed for Gamespy survival is if someone can figure out the proprietary .brg format to acquire all stuffs in the game for us to do restoration. Do note that the Glu.brg and ES.brg have nothing to do with each other. In case wondering if having prior knowledge, experience can be applied to Glu. Cartoon and Streets are unplayable, and it's very unlikely we ever see both return. For several community issues attempted to bring it back, but there is an inspired alternative called Career Tycoon in beta available to be played on PC to act as a counter revival basically. Racing Relevance is also sad, but it's probably more possible to be revived, but I don't know if there's a restoration in the development, and it does have an alternative called Other Legends that has many employees previously from Racing Relevance and Cartoon working on it, and Nito 3020 challenge for another alternative that's basically before Racing Relevance and has been restored to be played. Process, Old Gates, and Quiz Up are also unlikely to be restored as they ran on online servers. KKH, Stars of the Alias, and Hollywood are also unplayable, so unless someone is able to make the games offline playable, you'll stay dead. For the rest of Glu Games, they are ultimately should be playable through APK API, though there might be some unsupported devices problem and other issues, but some of them are planned or might be in development to be resourced as long as there's an interest and help insistence. In case wondering if they are ever come back by Glu or EA, nah, very unlikely. Glu didn't care about their legacy games, and they are one foot from game with less after titles left around, so nah. On EA side, they are more possible than Glu, but still very unlikely as they abandoned and lay off Glu's employees. Doesn't sound like a company who want to bring them back. And I'm not sure if it's a good idea for EA out of all companies to bring Glu Games back with Glu's favorite model to be match in hell making, so that's not to tempt EA much and just leave Glu Games as abandonware. And what about Glu's former employees joining together to make quality mobile games again? I suppose that's a possibility if some are interested, but I think they probably don't have much faith or don't trust the mobile gaming market. I mean, can't you blame them with how current market is? And after Glu traded them, it's probably why some just move on to other things. Oh, and I gotta make a point about mobile games being a joke. They should this rather than rudely insulted someone wanted to bring back old Glu games. Never mind the fact that Glu employees was taking their job seriously on making good mobile games, and never mind the fact that there are multiple mobile games out there having serious achievements and enjoyed by both kids and adults alike. I only need one example. Dungeon Defenders was a game that had cross-platforms between PS3, PC, iOS, and Android for online multiplayer that even has cross-save included thanks to Gamespy in February 2011. Yeah, a mobile devices was being treated seriously to be cross-platforms with PS3 and PC from both GameDesk and Gamespy, which by the way, it was the first game to have Unreal Engine 3 for iOS and Android at the time. It's so bad that it got delisted from mobile devices in December 2012. You know, the same month that Glu murdered Gamespy in cold blood. My point is that mobile games deserve to be more than just an app store, software, cash grab, and copycats. They should deserve to be taken seriously as a form of entertainment, considering smartphones are one of the most used devices. That's why there are people who took their time to revive these old games, because they were a fun mobile game, as you don't really get those kinds of games anymore. Instead, you'll see ad-slop games that we mobile gamers have been in constant suffering cycle for the past years. It's insane that the entire mobile platform medium post-2018 is now a dumpster slump and treated as such when other platforms are much more thriving in comparison, which leads me into Glu's legacy. Like, if you look at their game lineup, they really had diverse banger games that other mobile companies will have a hard time to compete. I mean, Gumbros. They literally struck gold with this dual stage through the game and had potential for their franchise to be expanded. Eternity Wars being an MMORPG game, Indestructible as a vehicle combat game, Cartoon and Racing Relevance for car fanatics, Deer and Dino Hunter for hunting animals and dinosaurs, zombie games like Famous Zombies, Contra Killer Zombies, Gears of Guts, and Sam, action shooter games like Frontline Commando and Contra Killer, Dino Dash, one of the most downloaded and best casual time management franchise, started across from Famous IPs, Quiz Up for Trivia, Gamespy, and other games that I've seen people enjoy. I played most of the games, and some were generally one of the best childhood mobile games that I have ever played. They could have been the gold standard mobile company to truly lead premium games, especially in current market with how the devs were poking fun at boring repetitive farming games from Indestructible description. They really had more potential to be a gold mobile company had they locked in and not be too greedy, but no. The fact that they somehow managed to fumble is disappointingly amazing. They instead became one of the worst companies on par with EA and a bad pioneer influence for enabling scummy business model that slowly turns mobile platform into a mess that it is in, and maybe even had wrongly inspired other mobile companies to do the same. They 100% deserve being abandoned by EA. Obviously, I'm talking about a company itself that deserves it, not the game itself. They got done dirty by Glu. EA was simply there to clean up Glu's mess and do mercy kill. If the Gumbros universe was scrapped and mangled by Glu, imagine what other Glu games could have done if they were held back or games that got scrapped by Glu. And I could go on and on about their goals for what they could have done, but literally, most of the Glu games could have been solved had they followed their own ideals. They say they take smart risks, yet they make stupid decisions. They say that they are creative, yet copy other IPs and clone their games. They say they are passionate and believe in long-term value, yet embed their games, avoid their loyal fans and employees. They say they deliver world-class experience, yet degrades their customers and makes anti-consumer practices. They say that fun has no limits, yet they put engine system and hand their employees on crunch time limit work schedule. And they say that Glu is about quality for both their games and work, yet their actions contradicts otherwise. From being one of the largest that was once great promising mobile game company and had such a diverse good game library to now only having 9 and 2 games left on app stores, reduced to the hollow shell of its former prime self. It's only a matter of time before their last FD titles goes away too, to finally leave Glu Mobile in embedded with darkness. It didn't have to be this way for Glu Mobile. They had all resources that can be used to take time on making better and innovative games. Had they listened to their fans, had they listened to their employees, had they didn't embed their games, had they followed their own ideals, but instead they became one of the worst mobile game company with their own worst enemy being themselves. It's truly sad that they go out in such a pathetic yet deserving way for their actions, even though they could have done so much more. In the end, they will only be remembered as greedy, incompetent, and wasted potential mobile game company as their legacy. Good riddance to Glu Mobile. That was a ride, wasn't it? I had both fun and frustration with making this video, most of it due to the fact that Glu kept being a fraud game company that may be delayed after being baffled by their actions, or me having tried to piece cohesive narrative with all the Clustermess that Glu did, but I think it came out alright. You guys might think I have some long personal beef connection with Glu, especially for some parts, but not really. I simply got mad because there were a lot of gamers and employees got hurt by Glu's actions. In fact, prior to learning about Glu, I have the least personal hate connection with them and know almost next to nothing about them aside from having played most of Glu games before, where I would satisfy them and move on without spending money. But really, I'm just a guy who noticed a lot of Glu games being got in Play Store and took an opportunity to make a video on Glu Mobile while I did it on my phone, as nobody made a video on the company itself yet, which I decided to do tons of research, including asking Glu veteran fan on Discord for info about Glu. So thanks Mark038 for providing some inspiration and sources of what happened, as the video wouldn't be much possible without him. He is the one who have personal beef with Glu for years though, and especially Glu's old forum that I didn't know exists until now, and managed to get most of screenshot threads thanks to Wayback Machine for me to make deductions based from what I found. There were surprisingly a lot of infos that were missing from Wikipedia, which I guess explains why there were almost no Glu YouTube essay videos due to not being documented well compared to Zynga's Wikipedia or Gameloft having a lot of YouTube coverage videos. Ironic, you would think licensing famous IPs would make it more known, but nope, they are more known for original IP games. I guess I speculate that Glu is such an enigma company that nobody seems to really know them because it was ahead of its time for doing Scummy Glu Tactics, deleted games, and forums where people didn't properly know what had happened, and that's why there was some lack of info where Glu was hiding behind shadows, being unnoticed for all these years. Well, until I came into a cover about them. But yeah, I'll be revisiting Indestructible next to cover more Glu games, then Time vs Zombies, and other Glu games down the line, depending on restoration being done. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Feel free to like and subscribe. So generally, it would be appreciated if you do to support the channel and get the algorithm going, as it took me 4 months to make this video. And yeah, thanks for watching. Have a nice day.